Coming this fall from SJS Direct, Easting the Sands of Time. It's action, adventure, and romance in ancient Egypt in this fantasy flashback Easting series adventure. Pre-order Easting the Sands of Time today on Amazon.com. When I take a critical look at the murder of Markise McGlockton in Florida, I can honestly say that this is a textbook case of how insane racists truly are. Because when you take a critical look at the murder of Markise McGlockton, it shows you how insane these racists are and how codependent black people sadly fall into a trap when dealing with these mentally ill racist white people. Now, when I look at this whole situation, what makes it completely insane is that we have Michael Draca, some white guy, deciding that he's going to go out here and patrol the parking lot of this Indian or Arab-owned Circle A food store. And that's mind-boggling when you think about it. Here you have a grown man standing outside of a parking lot of a store where he has no deed to the property and has no ownership of the business. And just like these dusty Negroes who go outside of their house at 6 a.m. to stand outside of an Arab-owned store from 7 a.m. to midnight, here you have this guy, Michael Draca, standing outside of this Arab-owned store that he makes no money in and makes no money policing, deciding he's going to decide who is going to be in the parking lot of this store. And that's completely insane when you think about it, because it shows me that this man literally has no power and he's been completely emasculated. So in order for him to get any sort of semblance of power, what this guy does is he gets out of his bed, goes and drives over to this Arab store and stands outside of the store and talking about he's going to police the parking lot. It's no different than that sociopath, George Zimmerman, who decided he was going to be the neighborhood watch for that gated community. And with your George Zimmerman, he decided he was going to be the neighborhood watch all by himself. And again, it shows me how powerless these white men are regarding their situation. And that's what makes them extremely dangerous for black men to deal with. Because when it comes down to these beta males, that in these situations, these men feel powerless about their situation, and they want to take power by destroying the life of a black man. And sadly, your Markise McGlockton fell into the trap that this Michael Draca had set up, because he just sadly got caught up in his emotions regarding this guy. Because what this guy was doing was he was trying to manipulate this situation so he could try to reclaim his manhood. And he believed that he could reclaim his manhood by going out here and murdering someone with that gun of his. Because in both the cases of your George Zimmerman and this Michael Draca, it's clear to me that these men have no power or control in their lives, and because they have no power or control in their lives, they're looking to take power by taking someone's life. And sadly, your Markise McGlockton just did not understand how to deal with these beta males, because it didn't matter if that black man was parked in a handicapped space or any other space. The problem was with this Michael Draca just being a dysfunctional, mentally disturbed beta male who was completely emasculated and could not reconcile the fact that his masculinity and his manhood had been completely stripped away from him by the females in his white community. So that was his issue, and that was the core reason why he was in that parking lot of an Arab-owned store, calling himself being the person who polices the parking lot. Again, no different than George Zimmerman, who had already been emasculated and was feeling insecure and inadequate in his manhood, and felt that he was going to be the sheriff who policed the whole gated community where Trayvon Martin and his father lived. Your George Zimmerman believed that he was going to be a man by doing these things, but your George Zimmerman and your Michael Draca were both emasculated, weak men. And what was said again was that your Markise McGlockton just did not understand how you deal with a beta male like this. Now, when it comes down to dysfunctional beta males like this, you cannot engage them because what they want you to do is get emotional and engage them. And sadly, your Markise McGlockton, he just didn't know that what was going on. He heard the arguing, he heard the shouting between his girlfriend and this guy. He wanted to protect his girlfriend and his children, and he went out here and physically confronted this guy. And this is what he wanted. This is what your Michael Draca wanted, because he believed that if he killed a black man, he would get his manhood back. And like George Zimmerman, he thought he could be a man by killing a black man. And that's what was so dangerous about these kind of guys. These guys, again, they have issues within themselves, and those issues have driven them completely insane. Because again, once you connect the dots regarding Michael Draca, you will see how completely insane this man is. He's sitting there in the parking lot of a business he does not own and calling himself patrolling this man's business. And that's something only an insane person would do. Again, it's no different than the dusty dudes who stand outside of the Arab-owned store in my neighborhood, who get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go stand outside of an Arab-owned store and stand outside of it until midnight. And the Arab guys are making money on the inside. Meanwhile, he's standing out there on the outside, in some cases, begging for 50 cents change. And the same thing probably with this Michael Draca. He was probably standing outside of the store begging for change and doing all sorts of things to hassle people. And that with this guy, he wanted to reclaim his manhood by killing this man. And that's why I call it a murder similar to that of your Trayvon Martin. Because when you look at both situations, what caused this to be a murder was the fact that we had these two males who were insecure in their own manhood, and they were looking for someone to kill. They were looking for somebody to fight with. They were looking for someone to engage in a confrontation. And they were looking for that because they don't feel adequate as men. They don't feel comfortable in their own masculinity. They don't feel comfortable in their own manhood. And in their own malice of forethought, they decided to carry these weapons and then were looking for situations to use them. And that's one of the reasons why black people shouldn't just advocate for the end of the stand your ground law, because this isn't standing your ground. This is looking for trouble. Standing your ground means self-defense, and self-defense means that you are in a situation which you did not provoke and you did not start the fight. No, when it comes down to standing your ground, it's about you defending yourself. It's not about somebody looking for trouble. Because when I look at George Zimmerman and when I look at Michael Draca, I see two emasculated individuals who were looking for a fight, who were looking for trouble, and were looking for a way to escalate the situation so they could go out here and murder someone. And that's what makes these men, again, completely disturbed, because only a disturbed person is going to willfully and intentionally go out here and look to kill someone. And when I say that he's disturbed and insane, it does not mean that he can get off on not guilty by reason of insanity, because both of these men, again, willfully and intentionally knew what they were going to do, because in many cases with these beta males, they know what they're going to do. They know why they're doing it. They're acting with malice of forethought, and they are perfectly logical and rational. But what makes their behavior insane is that they're not thinking critically, they're thinking emotionally. Because any logical and rational thinking person who is thinking critically and objectively, again, is going to understand that your time is too precious to stand in somebody else's parking lot where they're not getting paid for security and call themselves policing somebody's parking lot. And that's what really makes this Michael Drake a pathetic individual, in the same way your George Zimmerman was a completely pathetic individual. When it came down to both of these men, both of these males wanted to rise to manhood, but they did not know how to be men because they don't know anything about what makes a man. What makes a man is not carrying a weapon and using it. What makes a man is knowing how to solve problems without ever having to pull that weapon. And what makes a man is the ability to think critically enough not to call himself engaging people, but being functional enough to say that my time is too precious to call myself trying to engage people who I don't need to engage. And this guy, again, they have these hero complexes because they watch a lot of these hyper-masculine movies, and they want to be like those heroes, and that they want to be like those cops, they want to be like those military guys, but they don't have any masculinity because it's all been stripped from them. And that's something that black men really have to look out for, because when it comes down to these kind of guys can put your life in jeopardy, and you have to know how to deal with them. And sadly, I don't think Markise McGlockton knew how to deal with this guy, because the only way you can deal with a beta male like this is to just get in your car and drive away. And when you do that, you send not only a message to this beta male, but you also send a message to that store owner to do something about this guy, because if that store owner lost enough money, then I guarantee he would be going to the city council to have something done with this guy, and he would be going to his chief of police to have something done about this guy. And this is the whole problem with black people in the state of Florida, is that when it comes down to situations like the death of Trayvon Martin and the death of Markise McGlockton, they'll go out here and march and protest instead of flexing their economic muscles. Because what black people need to do with the state of Florida is start flexing their economic muscles, keep their wallets in their purses and their wallets in their pockets, and not spend any money, and let the politicians in Florida know they're not going to spend any money until this stand your ground law is repealed. Because when it comes down to this stand your ground law is vague, it's ambiguous, and I believe it's going to lead to a lot of innocent people winding up dead, because this law is a bad law. And that's why I believe black people need to stand their ground by keeping their wallets in their pockets, and send a message to the state of Florida that if black lives don't matter, then you don't get to see black dollars. Because that's the message that black people need to send to Florida's travel industry, Florida's tourism industry, and even local black Floridians need to send to Florida businesses that if black lives don't matter, you don't get to get black dollars in your business. And I believe if black people did this, the stand your ground law would wind up being repealed. And I also believe that people would be more seriously taking action against people like your Michael Drakas and your George Zimmermans, who believe that they can be a man by killing a black man, but the rest of the people would understand that if you want black dollars, you need to do something about these emasculated, weak cowards who believe that they have to have a gun and kill a black man in order to feel like a man. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, Isis, Escape from Transylvania. The goddess next door and John Haynes must escape a horde of vampires on the hunt in this horror-filled Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Escape from Transylvania in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.